What's up everyone, welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man X2. I lied, I'm not going to be starting off with Bubble Crab. Instead, we're going to jump into Morph Moth stage because we got something the last episode in Crystal Snail stage, namely his weapon, and the capsule in his stage, plus there's something in Morph Moth stage I'm going to get out of the way. It just happens to be where Agile, the third and final X-Hunter, teleported to, and he's also going to be the easiest one, so I just want to make sure he's out of the way before we proceed with Bubble Crab, and who's left? Magna Centipede. So the weapon we got from Crystal Snail allowed us to freeze that shield guy back there in place, and we could hop up on the frozen block that is now his frigid corpse, and boost up to the heart container. The other thing we got last episode was the capsule, the helmet upgrade from Crystal Snail stage, and what that does, and I didn't explain this last episode, is you select it as a weapon, it fires out a little reticle, and it seeks out secrets, like invisible sections of the floor. And that will lead us to this upgrade, which is the armor upgrade for X2. Functions very different from X1. It gives us the Giga Crush, which I believe is the first in a long line of abilities like this in the X series. How the Giga Crush works is that whenever you take damage, it fills a little gauge, and when that gauge is full, it allows you to use a screen-clearing attack, and it is exactly what was demonstrated right after we hopped out of the capsule. And I don't know if I'm going to get too much mileage out of that. There's one place in particular where it really, really comes in handy, one boss battle, but I don't want to use it there because it would just trivialize half of the fight. It doesn't instant kill bosses, but the boss that I'm referring to has, they're not quite ads, and will it be this? No, it won't be this episode that you'll see what I'm talking about. It'll be, it's Surgis's ride armor, or his little mechanical invention. It will destroy the cannons on that platform that he rides around on. And that pretty much trivializes half the fight. The other place I can think where Giga Crush comes in handy, it's more of a gimmick. It has a little bit of unintended utility when you're going to get the secret capsule in the third X-Hunter stage, or the third Sigma's Fortress stage. In that, when you use it, you kind of raise into the air a little bit higher, you elevate a little bit. So if you use that at the top of your jump arc, you can actually reach a few ledges in the game that you aren't supposed to be able to reach by jumping. And you can use that trick to bypass one of the hardest rooms, or one of the hardest screens in the game on the way to the secret capsule. But I'm not going to be doing that. The reason Agile here is so easy compared to the other X-Hunters is that he is much, much easier to manipulate than the other two. Surgis, if your timing is absolutely perfect, you can lock him into a pattern where he can, for the most part, never lay mines, and especially he can never flip. He'll just kind of be locked in place if you time it right. Violin is, for the most part, just fucking infuriatingly random. Agile is very manipulatable, though. He dashes along the ground with his little sword swipes if you're on the ground for prolonged periods of time, or sometimes he'll just do it randomly. But it's very easy to avoid because you want to stay up on the top part of the walls during the fight anyway, because of those big energy slashes. If you stay up on top of the wall, then he'll slash towards the top of the room, and then you can slide down or fall off the wall, and you have a big enough gap. Just sit still on the floor and just keep repeating that pattern, and you can manipulate him very easily. You can still take little stray hits, but with the Agile fight, you never feel like you're in danger. Unlike with Violin or Surgis, where Violin, he can just decide to be an asshole all of a sudden, or Surgis, where it's really technical. But with all of that out of the way, we now have all 3 Zero parts. So the next time we finish a stage, which should be this one, if all goes well, we will talk to Dr. Kane and he'll have some information on putting Zero back together for us. And since I now have all of Zero's parts, that actually changes a sequence of events that occurs at the end of the game. And I'm gonna wind up... how am I actually gonna go about that? I'll worry about that later. All that matters to you guys is that I'm gonna show off both what happens with Zero's parts in your hands, and what happens if you don't collect all of Zero's parts. So, look forward to that. That's gonna be in the finale. For now, that pretty much perfectly lined up with us reaching Morph Moth here. Morph Moth is one of the cooler fights in the game, simply because he has 2 very distinct phases. All of the bosses, except I think Overdrive Ostrich. I don't think the Ostrich has one. All of the bosses gain some sort of extra ability when they hit half health or slightly below half health. It's their desperation attack. Morph Moth takes on a completely different form. I'm really not pleased I got hit by that little counterclockwise junk beam. You know, there's one thing I actually don't understand about this part of the fight. I can't believe I dodged that and I got hit by him coming off off of his string, his web. Son of a bitch. There's one thing I don't understand about this part of the fight, and it's I don't know how to predict what side or which direction that junk beam is gonna go in. Is what direction it's gonna start off in. I don't know if it's... I never know if it's gonna start off clockwise or counterclockwise. As for this part of the fight, things don't get too tricky if he doesn't stay at this ground level too long. If you let him stay at this level long enough, he'll start tracking you, like hovering about an inch above you, like this. And it makes it almost impossible to avoid the... I don't know what to call this. Sparkle dust. Can't avoid Morph Moth's sparkle dust if he just tracks over you like this. That really screws me up sometimes. I've always kind of struggled with this fight. And I understand why I struggle with it, but I've just never corrected that problem. If you can keep yourself up on the wall and you can keep him resetting to the top of the room, you'll take a lot less damage because you'll have a lot more room to avoid the sparkle dust. And then the little rainbow beam is much, much easier to avoid than that attack. But sometimes you just get hit and it's annoying. If you've been collecting heart containers up to that point, then you can afford to take the damage on that fight. You're never really in any danger of him killing you or forcing you to exhaust a sub-tank or anything that drastic. It's just one of those bosses that wounds your pride. Anyway, now, actually, no, wait. I keep forgetting to do this. We can go back. Ever since we did Overdrive Ostrich, we've been able to do this, but I just keep forgetting. We're gonna go back to Wheel Gator stage, the big T-Rex dinosaur tank. Is that what the stage was called? The dinosaur tank? Oh, I'm done messing with that. We can come back here and get the capsule that we missed from the first episode. Oh, this is... I don't know why I'm bothering to use the Morph Moth's weapon here. Shit. What was it called? Whatever. Junk bullshit. Does this work on these guys? Yeah, it does. Cool. The cool thing about Crystal Snail's Crystal Hunter, I don't know how I remember that name, is that the enemies that it does work on, that it will entomb in ice, the big combat application of that is that it allows you to just dash next to them or dash through them and they just crumble. They shatter into 1,000 pieces and it's awesome. And I believe this is the final capsule, right? Yes, it is. This is the Buster upgrade, and it functions almost identically to X1, except this little number. So, the way that it's similar to X1's Buster upgrade is that it allows you to charge up all your special boss-acquired items, or weapons. And all the boss weapons, when fully charged, have a different use, have an alternative fire. And it functions mostly similarly in the way it enhances your main buster shot. The key difference here, though, is that when you fully charge a buster shot with the buster upgrade in this one, you get to fire twice. You actually get to hold kind of 2 charges. So you hold it, you charge until you're glowing purple, and then you release and you get your normal level 2 charge, the giant blue plasma ball. And then after you release the button to fire, you'll still be glowing. And then you release and you get that second attack with the swirling blue around the pink orb. Not the greatest description of that, but you get what I'm talking about. It allows you to fire twice, and that's really handy, and it's really powerful too. To get that heart tank up there that I just got, you don't actually need to have the charged version of Flame Stag's weapon, the Speed Burner. Man, I'm always surprised when I remember weapon names. I shouldn't be. This should be like drilled into my head by now. You don't need the charged version of the Speed Burner to get to that, but it's just a little insurance policy. So what I'm about to do is one of my favorite tricks that is specific to X2. I don't think this was in X1 or is in any of the others. So you notice when you're at a standstill on a flat plane, you jump at a low height. When you're at a standstill on a slope, you jump at a low height. When you take a running start jumping off of a slope, you get a lot more height, and that lets you do this. And then the other trick is that if you're at the peak of the water and you just mash the jump button, then you'll jump off of nothing and you'll just kind of keep hopping up and down without ever sinking to the bottom. And that just lets you really easily get to the sub-tank there without needing Bubble Crab's weapon, the Bubble Splash. Otherwise, you just have to backtrack through here, and I didn't feel like doing that. It's not a hard trick to do at all. Now, with that out of the way, we can move past that big glowing angler fish. And I think we're about 2-3 screens away from Bubble Crab. We have a bunch of these wall-mounted tri-laser guys. This is the other thing I really wish I knew better was the enemy names in this. Oh well. You have screwdriver tadpoles and tri-laser wall-mounted guys. Not exactly the most pithy names. They get the job done. They don't. They really don't. I don't know why they don't have... Why aren't the rest of the enemies in this game animal-themed? Come to think of it. I've never thought about that before. Why is it only the Mavericks who are animal-themed? You know, I think all of the bosses were designed by developers who formed like some kind of animism cult. Bubble Crab here, much like Agile, is very manipulatable, and that makes this an insanely easy fight. So all you have to do to manipulate Bubble Crab is go over top of him, and that's his trigger to start doing that headbutt attack. So if you just keep doing that over and over, he will keep reacting to it, and all you have to do is kind of dash above, and if there's nowhere to go behind him, then you can just kind of fall back and forth. Makes this a ridiculously easy fight. Even if you're not using Wheel Gator's weapon, his weakness, this is still pretty much the easiest way to go about doing things. And I'm gonna let him show off his other attacks. This, I think, is his only other attack. I can't remember him ever doing anything else to me. So when you pop the bubbles that his little friends are in, they will home in on you. Oh yeah, he has this attack. The one I forgot about. And it's really not a big deal. I've always thought it should be more like, I can't remember which vanilla boss I'm thinking of. I think it's one from, Mega Man 7, I want to say. Where he puts you in a bubble and he floats you towards the top of the room, and the ceiling of the room is made up of spikes. I always felt like Bubble Crab would be a way more interesting fight if that little ring of bubble attack that he does, which I guess is the basis for the bubble splash. It'd be a way more interesting fight if that mechanic was at play. Now, this is probably going to be the last boss of the episode. Magnus Centipede is the main reason that I wanted to make sure that I went back and got Wheelgator's capsule real quick, because I need a combination of the charged up speed burner and the air dash from Overdrive Ostrich's stage in order to get the sub-tank here. The heart, most people think that you need both of those, or at least one of those, to make it up to the heart. You actually don't. You can get the heart with, I think, just the air dash. You might not even need the air dash, come to think of it. So this is what you do to get the heart without using the speed burner. You dash jump up onto that little ledge, and when you catch yourself on the ledge, that resets your ability to dash, and then you can air dash over to the ledge where you climb up to get to the heart. And the only other caveat there is that those yellow spotlights that were going back and forth, you have to use the background object to avoid being detected. If you're detected, the sentries will deploy from the ceiling, otherwise they remain dormant and they don't attack you or do anything. They don't react in any way. So as long as you don't trigger them, that heart is very easy to get to. Now here is where the sub-tank is, and I need to go ahead and equip the speed burner. I just want to make sure it was that gap and not one. Coming up later in the level. So you charge the speed burner up, dash in the air, and then at the last second release the charge for the speed burner, and that gives you what amounts to a secondary air dash. I missed that twice in a row. Or was that 3 times? I wasn't really paying attention. Shit! I think I'm just releasing it like a second too early and barely not catching the ledge. Got it that time though. So now, let's see, I have all 3 0 parts, I have all 8 hearts, and I have all 4 sub-tanks. Let's see, am I missing anything? Well, I'm obviously missing the weapon from Magnus Centipede, but... Okay, cool. I've been kind of waiting for this mini-boss, because I wanted to talk about this since the first episode, but this is the first time it's really been appropriate. So there was something extra added to the X2 cartridge back in the day. There was a little chip inside. It was a CX4 chip. Yeah, the cartridge had a little C4 chip in it that caused it to blow up when you game overed, and they would use it to weed out the weak. No, there was a CX4 chip that they added to the cartridge that let it do little extra things like this. Like, they used it for these wireframe effects, some rotational effects. And, you know, the CX4 chip clearly has nothing on blast processing because, you know, it's blast processing.
The Sega Genesis has blast processing. Super Nintendo doesn't. So what's blast processing do?
Oh god, blast processing is just such a perfect target for mockery. Because it's not actually a thing. It's not a thing. It's just the Genesis, I think, had a faster processor, so they just came up with the term blast processing as a marketing gimmick. And they made a bunch of really terrible commercials based around blast processing. Oh man, never has there been a wider gulf between what a platform holder wants you to care about and what anybody actually cared about. To be fair, the Genesis had some cool tech in it that was utterly sabotaged by the fact that Sega had all the grace of an elephant on a rocket-propelled unicycle. They produced some really memorable commercials, though. Before I go on with that, though, the way this mini-boss works is the room that precedes him, where you see a bunch of blocky globules falling from the ceiling on you. There are also reticules that form up towards the top of the screen. If you get hit by the reticles, they scan you and they give the boss extra attacks. If you don't get hit by any of them, the boss just does those 2 attacks. So, I was saying something about blast processing and some marketing bullshit. Fuck. Where was I with that? Oh god, you know what just occurred to me? This whole cloud computing thing that Microsoft won't shut up about with the Xbox One is gonna be the modern equivalent of blast processing, except possibly more ethereal and full of PR doublespeak. Oh, all that's missing is the audacity of the 90s of 90s advertising, and that it could really be comedic gold, as if the Xbox One hasn't provided everyone enough gold to mine from as is. As for Magna Centipede, though, since we're almost done with the episode, I shouldn't talk about fucking blast processing the whole time. The way this fight works is that the main gimmick is that he'll try to pull you in. When you see me being sucked towards him and gravity goes all crazy, he's trying to pull me towards him. If he gets hold of you, he'll drain one of your abilities. And I don't think you get it back for the rest of the fight. And he'll just keep draining more and more things from you if you keep getting caught. I think he starts out making it so that you can't charge your buster and you can't switch to your special weapons. Eventually he takes away your ability to dash and he slows you down real bad. So it's really nasty to get caught by that. All you have to do to avoid it, though, is just dash away as soon as you see him start pulling you towards him. And you usually will not get caught. Just keep holding the stick in the opposite direction, or holding the D-pad in the opposite direction, and you'll be just fine. You won't actually get hit by that. Other than that, he doesn't do a whole lot. He throws these at you, which is his most frequent attack. And the way you deal with those, they float around you for a couple seconds, and then they stop, and they all converge, and you'll take damage if you're in the middle of them when they do that. Otherwise, you don't take damage while they're still spinning around you. They kind of perfectly track you. So what you want to do with that is you want to jump into the air at the last second and freeze them in midair, and then there's that little delay and they converge and they won't hit anything because you'll have dropped to the floor by time their attack triggers. That, and he does some little shuriken thing. That's it, though, and for beating him we get the Magnet Mine, the 8th weapon. Then we can start Sigma's Fortress after this, or the X-Hunter stages as they're called. So after Dr. Kane is done speaking, I'm going to wrap the episode up. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy. Have a good one. I'll see you in the finale, where we will start with the X-Hunter Stage 1. And we'll get to rematch with Violin, who's even more of a random asshole next time. See you guys.